First of all, congratulations to you both.
Thanks.
I know you're getting a lot of questions about the accents, but I kind of want to take it from a perspective of the actual, like, getting into the accent itself, finding words that help you find it. Because to me, it's fascinating. I've heard different actors have different sentences that help them get into it. Was there a saying that helped you jump into it more? Because I know you practice with a coach, clearly, but is there like a saying that can help you jump into it?
In the mornings with Barbara, my dialect coach, who's been, I always call her Barbara Bakery, Barbara Berkery, we would do an hour of just kind of verbal calisthenics, and we ended up doing a lot of Shakespeare just because it was had that archaic grammatical pattern that made you feel like you were living in a different time. And so we ended up doing a lot of Shakespeare, and that's what I would kind of go to in my brain if I because it's almost, I look at it like a record, and you're building grooves into the record. So once you put the note on the record, your brain and your mouth, because you've done it so many times, just play the record in your mouth. So if you put on like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, you just go in the and your mouth takes you on the thing, and you're like, oh, that's right. That's how you go from the L to the vowel to the.
Were there certain sections of it that were harder to get to? Like, because I was just talking to somebody who was doing my makeup downstairs, and she was saying, she's Scottish, and she said the accents in this film never felt overdone. They felt like you were watching somebody naturally speak a Scottish accent, and that's from a Scottish person. So were there letters or words, like you said, in those grooves that were like harder to find?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I think always, like with any accent, you want to kind of over-articulate and push it to the very nth degree, and then when you're on set, you can bring it back into your resonant voice and kind of, let it all go again. So it would have some sort of natural kind of tone to it. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty tricky accent. I mean, you're American doing a Scottish accent, but even from being English and doing a Scottish accent, it's still pretty damn difficult because it's kind of a mixture of different areas. I mean, it's hard that, at first, we're slipping into sort of, Irish or, sort of Northern English. Yorkshire, I don't know, it's, Yorkshire, and then suddenly, actually, I would listen to a lot of the, I forget now what they were called. There's like a sort of folk Scottish music.
Oh, yeah.
I can't really remember what they're called now.
But the battle scenes are insane. And I think, David, the beauty of this movie is the practicality of it all, happening in camera. And to me, the problem sometimes with battle scenes is that there's quick cuts and you can't see the action. Here you see every single bit of it, because David's a freaking genius. I love Hell or High Water. I'm curious, the horses. What was happening on set when horses would, like, when they would fall in battle? I know that didn't they build things? What were you guys seeing in those battle scenes when the horses were being injured, the characters?
Well, no, I mean, it should be said that
horses.
no horses were injured. Anytime you saw, for instance, like the horse that gets stabbed during the scene when we see the arm of a certain outlaw.
Yeah.
That's just like a knife with nothing on it, and then the guy goes like that, and that's just a CG cut.
Wow.
And then at the last battle, they built a rig for a half fake horse with a guy on top that would essentially come and they'd drag the thing at speed, and then it would stop, flip the guy, and then the horse would get impaled on a thing, then they'd add the rest of the body. So there's not one. The only time a horse actually falls is when you see up close in camera when the horse is, let's say, falling into the mud. But if you watch closely, all of those stunt riders who are incredible are priming their horse. Those are stunt horses priming their horse to go over into the mud, and then they promptly get up and run away, and that's a stunt horse.
Now, I was just telling you I'm from D.C., and I'm not going to ask you about your character in Wonder Woman, because I know you can't talk about it, and it's just a wasted question to say what's the story. But I just want to know from a D.C. perspective what it was like to shoot there, and in the sense of what did you visit? Because my wife and I had a place in Alexandria, which is where you shot some of the scenes. Can you talk about just maybe your time in Alexandria and also D.C.?
Yeah, I have to say, it's one of my now favorite towns I've been to. The food scene's incredible. I bought a bike and ended up biking 6 hours a day and saw most of the city.
Cool.
I was reinvigorated as an American to see, the center of our political and governmental system and going to the Supreme Court and crying outside of that and crying in the port. I might as well cry everywhere, I think. I guess I was turned on by the idea of, you know, through the many myriad incarnations of our country, as fucked up as they can be and as politically kind of rank and gross, there is an ideal behind it that seems there's a purity to it that hopefully people are trying to stand up for, and you know, we get pushed on the ground, get up again and again. So I'm not a jingoistic kind of, it's not my deal, but I've had a certain pride there. But the food scene, I was incredibly, I'm gonna forget all the names of every place I went to, but well, special shout out to Tail Up Goat. Is that what it's called? Anyway, great time.
Last thing, real fast, one sentence. My favorite scene in the movie is when you kneel and you say, "Are you a good man?" I thought that, because it made me think to myself, what makes a good man? For each of you, to the other person, Aaron to Chris, Chris to Aaron, in one sentence, what makes Chris a good man and what makes Aaron a good man? So that way you don't have to speak about yourself.
You know what I love about Chris is he's so down to earth and humble and modest and open. You know, and even working with Chris is just so he's so giving and as an actor, and I think that says a lot about someone. He's not got ego or is trying to, you know, he's never been condescending or patronizing. It's just a genuinely down to earth human being.
And Chris, real fast on Aaron, why is Aaron a good man?
Just kindness. I respect kindness above all else.
Sounds weird to ask. It does, but I was just curious.
Kindness.
Yeah.
Kindness.
I agree, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
Guys,
you, man.
you guys are awesome, and that tracking shot is unbelievable. It is time finally to geek out about that opening shot, because I didn't have time today at the junket, but I wanted to talk to you about filming that moment, what it's like to do a one shot when we're not seeing you on camera. Are you setting up your next position? Is somebody telling you where to be? How does that work?
So Dave, as I recall, I don't think David had planned. Maybe he'd mentioned he wanted to maybe do it, but I don't think I glommed onto the fact that, oh fuck, he's like really gonna do it. So I think the first day we ended up shooting traditionally and did some masters and some coverage. We had about 4 cameras. And then the rain hit and it all turned to shit. It got really muddy, and he said, you know what I want to do? I saw the footage, I want to do the oneer. So as they kind of kept the tents dry and stuff, we went to this other tent down the hill and rehearsed with our Steadicam operator and got it like it was a ballet. It was a balletic thing. Yeah. So we did that for, I think, about a day, and then we shot a day of 2 or 3 of those takes, one of which was 13 and a half minutes. I think the one that made it is 8. So yeah, just like a play, you go off stage, off camera, and then you're waiting for your time to come back on. And what I loved about it is that as you, you know, much like the fight scenes, for instance, there's a chaoticness to our film which either lends itself to what you like or it doesn't. You just get thrown into the muck, into the mud, and you got to figure things out. So in that, you're thrown into an entire context. You get a little bit of exposition with a chyron, but then it's like, and go, and then as the camera goes around, you see everybody. You know, I would suggest people watch it a second and a third time just so you can kind of calculate where the alliances are and who's with who and what was Outlook about, because it'll pass by you in a heartbeat. You know, David doesn't like an insert. He doesn't really particularly like a close-up all that much, and he doesn't like coverage. He just likes the run and gun, run and gun, run and gun.
Good to see you again, man.
Nice to see you, yeah.
I wanted to ask you this earlier, but I didn't have time. There's a great moment in the film where you're talking to Tony's character's daughter, and Tony comes over and says, "Hey, stay away from her," and you kissed him. And he told me earlier that was an improv moment. Is that something you just kind of came up with on the spot? Did you plan to do it before you shot it? I was curious about that. It's a great moment.
I mean, you know, like, that's the beauty of making this sort of a movie and the way that Mackenzie likes to shoot, and a lot of things were improvised, and sometimes, you know, I'm always of the theory, you know, you always want to give options, so, you know, never one take's never the same, and that gives you room to be liberated and play, and my character was definitely someone who could allow himself to play, so it's my job to give as much as possible, and yeah, kind of Tony got real close up in my face, so you know, what are you gonna do, kiss me or something? So I kissed him. just to kind of disengage with his kind of, aggression, because I thought it'd be kind of funny,
Good
travels.
to see you again.
Nice to see you again, man. You all
so,
right?
so now that I have you, since we didn't get to talk about this on camera earlier, I actually discussed this with Aaron just now about the great scene where he kisses you in the movie. It's one of my favorite moments in the movie. It's a great lighthearted moment to
We
kind of.
rehearsed that a lot, actually. We rehearsed that kissing scene a
It was
lot.
an improv that you told me, and he said it was improv. Well, what was your reaction when it happened, and how many?
Well, I thought halitosis. No, I didn't know. I was like, God, he's got soft lips. No, it was great. I think I was just saying to the gentleman here that it was the kind of the atmosphere that David creates on set. That you just sort of. You don't want to act. You just want to be. You want to be Angus, be Robert the Bruce, be Douglas. And a lot of the time we were on set, we were very much. You were definitely in the character's boots, as it were. So anything that happened, acting, reacting, when that happened, I sort of just went with it, But thankfully, he didn't linger too long.
It's one of my favorite moments in the movie. It
was great because I love there's a cut and it goes straight to Bruce.
Yes.
And he's laughing, but then
He's
obviously,
like,
but then of course, and it seems that the camaraderie between the men, which I think is very important to show that. But at the same time, and then a few minutes later, you find out some other news, and then the sort of roller coaster of the journey of these men, of the fact that if someone wants to become a powerful figure, there's great sacrifice that comes with, sadly.